Now we're going to isolate your quads. So we're going to hammer the quads. The first thing I want to do is I want to show you how to set up a leg extension. This is step number one. If you don't know how to execute a leg extension properly, then you're not going to get near as much benefit. So step number one is that we get this machine set up right. So how do we know where to position this back pad? You want to position this pad front to back so that when you're seated, your knee lines up with the axis. The positions where your joints should line up are marked. Colors typically change. Most of the time they're either red or yellow. So you want to look at these markers and you want to look at where the axis of the machine is, meaning when you extend your knee, where does the rotation occur? Well, on this machine, it's going to be right here. This is where the movement occurs at the joint. Well, we want to line your knee up with this axis to make sure that you have congruent forces through your knee joint. That means that you have to position this back pad here so that when you're seated, that your knee lines up with that point. So let's play with it. I'm going to position this all the way back. Have a seat here. Well, I'm obviously not 6'8", so this is way too reclined here. I have no support in my back, and my knee does not line up with this yellow thing here, which is the axis. So this means I need to change the back pad position. Let's change it again. Let's go up 2 notches. So I was on 6, now I'll put it on 4. Have a seat here. Well, I'm closer here, my knee with the axis of the machine, but now my back is not supported, so this doesn't line up either. So I need to make another change. Let's change it again. Put it on 2. Okay, now we're talking. So I've got pretty good support here on my back, and my knee's pretty lined up here with the axis. Like, this feels really good. So I've got this pad positioned where my knee lines up here. I've got proper support here. Let's try one more position. Let's try it all the way forward on 1. I've got a lot of support here on my back. Look at my knee now. My knee is now in front of this thing here. So I'm not completely lined up with the axis, although I do have good back support. So that means that the one in between this and the last one is the right spot. So 2 is going to be where I want to put this thing. Have good support, my knees lined up, money. That's how I know where I want to be. So step 1 is going to be, where do you position this back pad so that your knee is lined up with the pivot point of the machine? 99.9% of these machines are going to have a shin pad that moves. So a pad here where you can move it up and down. How do you know where to put this thing? Well, on a leg extension, the higher this pad is relative to your knee, the less joint forces on your knee. So knee joint is the axis. Here's going to be where the resistance is applied. The further this is from the axis, the more joint forces are going to be on the joint. So if I have this thing all the way down on my shins, at my feet, well, this increased the distance from the load to the axis. There's going to be the most joint forces on my knee. So this probably is going to be the hardest position on my knee joint. So I'm going to try to bias this pad as high up as I can. So I'm going to bias this pad higher than lower. Shin pad up as opposed to being down. Back pad lined up, knee joint in the axis. There's one more lever that most of these things have, and that's going to be where your starting position is. That's going to be all dictated by your range of motion. So I'm going to position this so that I'm maximizing my range. I have a decent amount of knee flexion, so I can start this thing pretty much all the way back so that my quad is starting maximally lengthened. That's going to be my bias if you have that range. If you don't, you can start this thing, wherever your anatomy allows. I can start this thing further out. If you've had like a knee surgery, I mean, I've got people who post ACL or something, we'll start the machine all the way out here and we can work through a little bit more of a shallow range. You want to dictate your range of motion all by your anatomy. There is no right or wrong on any of these positions. They're all based on you. So let's walk through this again. Step one, how do you position the back pad? That's a question. How do you do it? The answer is you're going to position this back pad so that your knee joint is lined up with this axis here. Step two, how do you position the shin pad up or down? We're going to position this higher than lower, because the higher this shin pad is relative to your knee, the less joint forces on your knee, and we're playing the longevity game here. So we want to make sure that we are reducing the most shear forces at your knee to increase the longevity of the joint and maximize the work of your quads. So shin pad higher than lower. Range limiter here, where do you position this? This is based on your anatomy. For me today, I'm going to position this all the way back here, because the further back I have this thing, this is the more lengthened my quad is going to start. The more lengthened my quad is going to start, the more shortened I can get my quad, and the more muscle work I can get for my quad. So walk yourself through those steps. I'm going to repeat this every single time we do this. So every time we do this, I'm going to walk you through these steps, and this will become second nature for you. We're going to go 4 sets. On the leg extension, we're going to freaking smash your quads, and I'm going to walk you through the proper form and how you're going to get the most from this. I see this exercise botched so many times. I would say this is one of the most ill-performed exercises that I've ever seen in the gym. You hardly ever see control on a leg extension. People flail around on this thing and just do really shitty reps. So let's walk through proper execution so that we can perform everything with excellence. Let's go round number 1. 1 minute on, 1 minute off. I'm going to guess on the weight. 110. Let's see what happens. I'm going to tell you that a minute on quads sucks ass in a good way. So this is gonna, if your quads don't feel like they're freaking on fire at the end of this set, something needs to change. Let's do this thing with a smile though. Let's kill it. 1 minute. Time started. All right, chest is up tall. I'm gonna pull myself into the seat. I'm gonna tighten my quads before I move. Squeeze at the top. I'm gonna fight every inch that I lower. Pause here. Tighten first. I'm making my quads lift my shins, and I'm making my quads fight the resistance all the way down. What's everybody do at Crunch Fitness? Everybody at Crunch Fitness is doing this. And watch that little trunk lean I just did. You're going to see that all the time, this little motion here. I don't know what the hell that is, but what I want you to do is I want you to keep your chest up tall, because that's going to create the maximal length at your quads. And that's going to increase engagement. And then you're going to make your quads eat shit the entire time. Squeeze here at the top. And we're going to fight this load all the way down. That flailing shit does you no good. You get way less from doing shitty reps than you do from making your quads freaking contract and own every inch of this movement. I'm on fire. Squeezing it for 3, 2, 1. Round 1. Rest. 1 minute off. I think at the end of the day, most people don't like to feel pain. I'm going to use the word pain kind of in this like embrace it attitude. I don't view this as pain. I often hear this described as pain. Do you remember when I went over, so in our back workout this week, I went over what is muscle failure. Of the properties of muscle failure, the last one that I covered was muscle discomfort, muscle burn. So as a product of muscle failure comes a burn and comes discomfort. That is one of the properties. So as a part of this steel fit process, we are taking you near failure every single set. I just hit a minute of rest. I'm gonna give you 30 more seconds. We're taking you near failure every set. That means that you should experience this feeling of muscle discomfort and muscle burn. What I want you to do is shift your attitude away from escape. Don't escape that feeling. Embrace that feeling. Because what happens is that feeling goes away. The more you embrace the suck, the embrace the suck mentality forces the suck out. By weeks 2 and weeks 3, you're gonna notice it doesn't suck anymore. And you're gonna be like, WTF? Because all of a sudden, that thing that sucked so bad that you hated went away. And guess what? A lot of it wasn't here, it was right here. Let's go round 2. I'm gonna tighten my quads before I move. Step 1. Step 2, so I'm gonna tighten so hard, I'm gonna make my quads lift my lower leg. I'm gonna go all the way to full knee extension, which is right here for me. And I'm gonna make my quads own every inch that I lower. That's too light. I'm gonna go up. You're in control of the weight. The weight is not in control of you. I'll drop it. 150 to 90. Squeeze through the range. Squeeze at the top. One more, last one. Embrace any burn feeling you have. They are freaking done. Rest. There is no burn like a quad burn. Holy Moses, 1 minute. Reps in reserve. At the end of that set, how many more reps could you have done? If you could have done more than 3, you need to increase the weight. Now on that last set, notice what I did. I made that a drop set. So a leg extension is a very easy machine to manipulate the resistance throughout the set. So what I typically do almost every single set, so I try to bias a little bit heavier. And when I start to notice my control getting less and less, I drop the weight. One thing you're gonna get better at, the more you pay attention to engaging your muscles, you're gonna get to an advanced place where you start to notice when you can do a certain weight, but you're getting less from it. Meaning that I probably could have done 2 more reps of that 150, but it was getting heavy enough where I couldn't engage my quads anymore. So when I dropped the weight, even though the weight reduced, the suck got worse because I could engage my quads more. That's an advanced move. When you start to realize that the weight is inhibiting you and that a drop actually makes it harder than it does easier. And a lot of people have a hard time grasping that concept, but heavier weight doesn't always mean heavier challenge. If you've been with me for a while, you know this by now. Round 3. 1 minute. Start heavier, quads engaged. Mind-muscle connection. What are we thinking about? We're thinking about tightening your quads before you move, making your quads lift your lower leg. Now I've got to notice my hands. I'm pulling myself into this seat because I've got to create an anchor for my hips. Controlling all the way back to the starting position. If I don't hold the seat, my hips have nothing to brace with, and since one of my quads crosses my hips, I've got to cinch my hips down to really engage with my rectus femoris. Last rep, keep fighting for it. Squeezing for 3, 2, 1. Oh, shit. Rest. Damn. Four quads. Rectus femoris. Vastus intermedius. Vastus medialis. Vastus lateralis. Your vastus intermedius touches right in here. Sorry, right in here. Vastus medialis in here. Vastus lateralis out here. None of those three quads cross your hip. So those three quad muscles attach right here in your knee, and they come up onto your femur. Your fourth quad muscle is called your rectus femoris. It attaches the same spot, but it inserts all the way up here on your hip bone. The reason that's important, if this quad muscle doesn't have your hip to anchor off of, then it has no stability. So you have to pull yourself into this seat to cinch this bone down so that that quad muscle has something to contract off of. So when I was talking and I started touching my quads, my ass started coming out of the seat, and I immediately noticed I couldn't engage my quads much anymore. And that was because I lost that anchor. Last set. Chest up tall, back is arched, hands here, pulling myself into the seat. Started at 150. This will be interesting. What's the break crunch doing? What are we doing? Making our quads pull our lower leg all the way to straight, which sucks so much more because I can't even do one. Now I'm on 70. There is a sudden freaking death that just happened. Tighten verse, embrace the suck. I gotta drop again. Massive failure. 50. I went from 150 to 50. Time is up. I'm gonna go for another one. Tighten here first. Make your quads extend your knee. Man, I got freaking nothing. Failure. 4 sets. Let's go over once again. I'm gonna keep using Crunch Fitness as an example because it's the biggest gym I think in America right now. And there's a ton of crazy shit that goes on. So, what do most people do at Crunch Fitness? What they do is they have no control and they just flail around on this exercise with no thought process. And they're gonna really reduce the amount of tension that they can generate because there's no mind-muscle connection, and they're using physics to their advantage while changing the length-tension relationship with their quad as they flex their trunk. What are we gonna do? We are going to make sure we're in proper alignment. We're gonna anchor our hip into the seat. We're gonna bring our chest up, tighten our quads before we move, and make our quads extend our knee every inch of this movement, maximizing muscle engagement and tension, squeezing as hard as we can at the top, and then making these muscles fight this load all the way down, as opposed to letting this weight fall down. There's a big difference between me being here and letting this fall compared to me being here and making my quads fight this pad the whole time I go down. So you have a decision to make. When you get all the way to straight, there are several different directions you can go. You can make your quadriceps engage and maximize every single second of the tension, or you can completely waste your time and let this load fall all the way down. The choice is yours. And the muscle benefit is your choice too. One path, you're gonna maximize hypertrophy and strength. The other path, you're gonna waste a lot of time. So we're gonna treat every single motion with excellence. We're gonna treat every single exercise with strategy and precision. And I'm gonna maximize my time, maximize your time. That's the end of leg extension.